Welcome to Share Talk. Today we welcome William Frewen, who is the chairman at Armadale Capital plc, ticker ACP. Hello there, William. How are you today?
Very good, thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come onto this.
Not a problem. Firstly, can you tell our listeners about yours and the company's history previous to the graphite acquisitions?
Armadale's had an involvement for about 3 years, I think, in the Congo with the gold project. A lot of work was put into the first year, and then it sort of slowed down, I think, there was difficulty financing the project, and it sort of came to a bit of a halt. And then in June, July, the company was offered a chance to invest in the graphite mine in Tanzania, and they took it up. And so now we have the two different assets. The graphite mine you've heard a lot of announcements about previous to today. And then today you've heard the announcements of what we're going to do and how we're going to go forward with the gold mine. Both which we think are pretty exciting.
Thank you. You're new to the ACP team. Could you summarise the reasons that you joined the board and what you bring to Armadale?
Of course, yeah. I'm somewhat fortuitous, to be honest, that I got involved. A friend of mine who's over here marketing Australian stocks, and particularly resource stocks, introduced me to the Australian people who put this deal together. They've already done this with a company called Volt, and they had this other project, and they decided that they've got their Australian project, and it would be a good idea to try and put this into a different market, to put it into an AIM-listed vehicle to see whether there was still the demand in UK and Europe in general for a new graphite project. I was brought on board, certainly not because of my knowledge of mining. There are a lot of those already in the company. In fact, also the company secretary and the finance guy are both very much involved in a mining background. But mine is sort of a finance background. And I've been chairman of an AIM company before, and I'm chairman of the FTSE 250 listed fund. So I think it's that experience and some contacts in London, which the others don't have, that maybe that we put the two together, and it sounds like quite a good mix.
So, in regards to the graphite then, it seems to have dominated your news flow in recent months. Can you explain why you decided to get exposure towards that mineral?
Well, I think you only have to read the papers to know what's going on in the markets at the moment for particularly batteries, battery cars, electric cars, whatever. And everybody talks about lithium, but actually graphite is a very, very key opponent of that, component, I should say. And the demand is obviously going to grow enormously for that particular mineral. I think it's quite ironic, actually, that you're sort of mining something in it for a green energy, but that's the way it is. And I think that there are, of course, many other graphite producers, and over time we'll find out how the supply-demand efficient works. But at the moment, it's very much in demand. It's very much a newsworthy thing, and by definition, therefore, it is a mineral you would like to get involved in. And this particular project, I found particularly interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, you're going into a company with market capitalisation of about £4 million. So, I do on everything on sort of a risk-reward basis. That's how I was brought up as a bond trader. It has also been put together by a group who've already done it. So you're not talking about sort of rookies. We're getting a proven management team. The support team here in London is very experienced. And more to the point, you're doing it in a very good area. I mean, Tanzania, if you're going to be in Africa, is as stable democracy as you're going to get. The transportation links are good. And we are literally right beside two other mines who are probably a year ahead of us. In fact, we've just sent, we haven't sent, we invited an analyst over to go and have a look at it from our Nomad. And he said, look, you've got the perfect thing to follow. Just follow what's going on beside you. And, you look as though you're in a very, very good position. I haven't been there yet myself to see it. I will do, but he has. And so it's perfectly positioned. It seems to be the right commodity, an experienced team, risk reward, starting very low base. It's quite a compelling story.
So why your projects in particular, what differentiates your projects from other graphite licenses?
Well, that we're not sure of just yet, we have to say. I mean, it looks like the first essays have come out, have been very, very good. So that's a very good, starting point. We know that it's in a good spot, and we have our JORC results coming out before Christmas. We've said, we're pretty sure we'll be able to get that, and everything so far is pointing to the fact that we've got a very high grade, which I think is obviously very, very important for graphite, and we got it in the right place. And I think that's what to be fair, that is what I inherited. I didn't go for that one myself, but that's what I inherited. And I know the Australians and the geologists are very excited about it. So I think that's the main thing. If they're excited, clearly I'm going to be excited. If the experts think it's a good thing, well,
So in relation to news flow then, you've obviously got the JORC results coming out there for the graphite licenses.
Yep.
Now, you released news this morning in reference to Armadale's gold interests, and it seems to be a positive signal that you're going to be able to crystallise some value from the Mpokoto mine there. So how do you see the relationship there with Keesing Mining progressing?
I think this is very important. I think this is very important to the long-term shareholders, because I think they'd have been very patient, watching not a lot happening for quite some time in the Congo mine, and frankly, quite a lot of resources going down. There's quite a few people there was quite a lot of salaries, and I think a lot of shareholder value has probably been eroded. Now that has to stop. The first thing I did when I got here, looked at the balance sheet and said, well, this can't go on. We need to do something about this. So we've always been talking to Keesing Mining, and one of the principals behind that company is the same as one of the shareholders of our company, so we know them well. He is a very well-known mining man in that part of the world, and he thinks there is a project to do. Hence the idea of having a due diligence process for 90 days, and the option which they have taken up today, which we're absolutely delighted. To explore. They've got to put $1.25 million into it to do some feasibility studies and some testing. And at the end of that period, a decision then gets made. We can do absolutely nothing and stay there, and we'll get a 15% carry. Or if we want to, we still have 65 or 75% of the company, and we can come to do a joint venture if we'd like to. That decision is not going to be made for the moment. But as far as I'm concerned, what we've got a situation of, we had an asset which was costing the company an awful lot of money, which stopped that. So we've stopped the bleeding, and now we've got a free option, and we know the people who we're working with. So I think that's a very good position to be in, frankly, and I think that's why it's a very important part of the basically two-part portfolio of this investment company.
So, in relation to news going forward then, is there anything else in the pipeline that shareholders can look forward to?
Well, I think the next thing will be the JORC in the next, as I said, before Christmas. I don't think one's going to hear much more from the gold mine for a bit, certainly not till the new year. As regards actual action in Tanzania, and it's a wet season, the rainy season at the moment, so one would expect drilling to start again probably in March, and there's some metallurgy results which will be coming out, I think, in January. So we've had a lot of news flow over the last few weeks. We've probably got, as I said, the big one coming up with the JORC, which, as you can see from our previous RNSs, we've been relatively optimistic, and if that is fulfilled, I think the market will see what we hope is a very good resource, and a historical resource which hasn't been so good, which is also good. So I think the outlook is very good.
In regards to the graphite projects, obviously you've delineated a 2.5 kilometre strike area, and you've obviously put a high grade sort of title on the mineralisation there. Can you sort of tell us further how that compares to a lot of other graphite mines and licenses in regards to the fact that there's not a lot of information out there about graphite miners.
Well, I think the trouble with graphite and in graphite mining, in my short experience of trying to learn about it, is that the grade seems to matter hugely as to what it is, and only the top grade is really going to be very useful. It appears that is what we've got, but as you can see, also there's no sort of set price. It seems like the grading changes dramatically or the price changes dramatically depending on the grading, and therefore until we've got the JORC resources and then done a real feasibility studies to exactly what we have, it'll be difficult to compare our actual resource. I think what one can say is that the market value of ours is hugely lower than anything around us, and even if we have the same sort of resource, and let's hope we have a slightly better one, then it seems to be wrongly priced. But I know that's not exactly the question you asked, but I think it's a fair point.
No, you've answered the question in a slightly roundabout way, but I obviously understand that you can't obviously say what it is you have and haven't got because you haven't had the JORC yet. So
No.
it seems very positive from the grades that you've obviously listed via your RNS news releases. So is there anything further you would like to share with our listeners?
No, I think I'd just like to. I would like to say that I think that we're trying to make this a low-cost, efficient operation. We're going to try and move things very quickly. We had a timetable which the Australians sent to me, and I said this seems to be taking quite a lot of time, and they said actually, William, this is quite quick. And I said, well, let's see if we can get this really moving. Why is it that you can't do a feasibility study at the same time as having offtake talks? Why did one have to be the other? So what we'd like to do, I think the shareholders, and I do want to make this point, shareholders have been very patient. There's clearly, if you look on the blogs, some fairly impatient shareholders. I don't blame them either. What we'd like to do is assure them we're going to try and make these two projects work as efficiently and as quickly as possible to try and maximise the value for them and for all the shareholders. So this is a company we want to run for all the shareholders.
William Frewen, Chairman at Armadale Capital PLC, thank you very much for your time today.